This is a quick overview of what's new in version 5.3 of FS Flying School Pro. The additions that have been introduced in this version are at the flight plan screen of FS Flying School Pro, and we've added several features to the on approach section, which allows you to very quickly set up an approach at any airport in the world, and you can then fly that approach, and once you've landed you can then come back to the screen and set up an approach somewhere else, or repeat the same approach of course if you wish, but it enables you to very quickly set up approaches anywhere in the world to practice your landings in all kinds of different situations. The sections that have been added in version 5.3 of FS Flying School Pro are the ability to set the local time of day, also the ability to filter the airport codes to geographical regions when you're selecting random airports for your approaches, which is a great way to travel around the world and try out all kinds of different scenarios and situations. There's also the ability to filter your random airports by runway elevation, which are controlled by these three controls here. And then finally, the ability to filter by runway type. You may wish to practice approaches that are only on ILS runways, or are only on runways that have no ILS. So that's the summary. Just to get into the details of how it all works, I'll begin at the top left here of the on approach section. And of course, remember, this is only one aspect of what FS Flying School Pro does. We've got lots of other screens that control, for example, the pilot screen, control lots of other functions, the way that you fly with your instructor, the sort of information you hear, whether the instructor monitors ground traffic and air traffic and so forth, what the instructor is talking about and how he's going to want you to fly, whether you have failures. In the aircraft section you can have the choice between whether you want the instructor to monitor your use of lights with the aircraft, for example, many other things. And then of course you've got your logbook page where you're seeing how your flight was evaluated by the instructor, the settings page which enables you to control various aspects of the way the program's functioning, including, if you've added it on, how the voice commands are to be treated. And so we'll go back to the flight plan screen so we can see how the on approach logic all works together. So essentially you can tell Flying School to put you on approach to a specific airport. For example, here we've got Chicago. If I click Find Airport, then we've got the information for the airport here, and then I can set various parameters, and then when I press the connect button over here, I will be connected to Flight Simulator, and Flight Simulator itself will be configured so that the aircraft is now on approach to that specific airport, to that specific runway. We can pick whichever one runway we like at that airport. We can tell Flying School what approach speed we want to start the approach at, and indeed we can tell it how many nautical miles we want to be out when we start our approach, and there's our drop down for that right there. So the new features that are being introduced then in version 5.3, as we said, these features here. So let's take a look at those. If we turn this checkbox on, it enables us to set the local time of day. Now this is the local time of day. This is not GMT or Zulu time. This is the local time of day when we start our approach. This is useful because it might be that we want to make sure that we're practicing only let's say daytime approaches, in which case noon might be a good time to use for that. But we can set whatever we like. We might like to have an approach that's taking place perhaps at dusk or at twilight. Of course that will depend on the time of year, and it will depend on the latitude of the airport as well. Or on the other hand, we might want to be practicing approaches that are taking place at night, so we might go for, I don't know, let's say 2:30 in the morning, and we can be fairly certain that we're going to have darkness at that point in time, And so now when we do our approaches, no matter which airport we go to around the world, whenever we press connect, the local time will be set to the time that we have chosen here, so we can be sure that that's the time that we're going to start our approach at, and that will determine obviously the sort of light we can expect to have. Moving on, we can filter our airport codes using this new control here. Now, if we don't use this, then if we ask for a random airport, then as you can see, here's our airport information over here, we're getting randomly chosen airports that could be anywhere in the world. There's no restriction, and we're just getting our randomly chosen airports, as you might imagine. On the other hand, we can type in partial airport codes here that effectively restricts the random airports that are selected by geographical region. So for example, if I start off with a K and we set the random airport, we're going to see, because we can see from the airport codes here, that we're getting airports that are in and around the United States. Okay, we'll just click a few more of those. Very good. Then alternatively, we might, for example, say EG, which means that we're going to get, now if we click on this, we're going to be getting random airports that are within the United Kingdom. Alternatively, we might perhaps press EK, and then we'll get random airports that are in and around Denmark. So that's how that works. And this, of course, is optional, so I'll clear that for the time being. And remember, once you've chosen your airport, you just press the connect button, and that's it. You're set up for your approach, and you fly it with your instructor by your side. The next control we want to look at is the runway elevation. We can turn this on or turn it off. But if we do have it turned on, then we can set the minimum and we can set the maximum elevation in feet for the airport we're going to approach. We might, for example, decide that we're going to do high altitude practice today. So let's say we go with something like 10,000 feet, which is really getting up there, and we would expect to see, in my experience, we would expect to see airports that are going to be in, let's say, probably see a lot from South America here. So if we select some random airports now, and we just click around here, so we've got South America coming in here. And as we can see, we've got some pretty high elevations here. So good for high altitude practice. And this is the minimum elevation, and there's the maximum elevation. So on the other hand, we might decide that we want to keep things fairly low. So if I clear that out, now we're going to be looking at airports that are up to a maximum of 1,000 feet. And then if we select our random airports, then of course we're going to see airports that fall within that bracket. This one is at an elevation of 107 feet. We can even, if we want to, set a maximum elevation of 0 feet. Wait, I've got that backwards now. Here we go. A maximum elevation of 0 feet. There we go. So now we can expect to see randomly chosen airports that are indeed below mean sea level. So we can set whatever we like with the elevation there. Okay. Now I'll go ahead and turn that off as I carry on. We can of course use these filters in any combination together, no problem there. We come now to the third random runway filter that we're looking at today, and that is where we're filtering by runway type. By default this is set to all, so we'll just get any kind of runway without regard to whether it has ILS or not. If instead we turn this on, then we get runways that only runways that have ILS, or the Instrument Landing System. So it could be that we want to practice ILS approaches today, and we'd like some random airports that are guaranteed to have ILS. So now if I select a random airport, we should see that there's our ILS frequency there. And remember that with FS Flying School Pro, we just pop back to the pilots page over here. One of the options that we can have is that the ILS will automatically be tuned on Navigation Radio 1, and also that the ATIS information will be automatically tuned on COM 2. Well, let's go back to the flight plan screen then. So now, if we select random airport, we're getting only ILS airports. And if we want to, that frequency is being dialed automatically into our radio. So that means that if we're doing an ILS approach, we can just click, click, click through for random airports, and we know that when we press the connect button, we'll be on approach for that ILS airport, and the frequency will already be tuned into the radio. So from that point in, we should be able to just follow our instruments, and we're all set. Alternatively, if we don't want any ILS, we can actually specifically ask for no ILS runways, and then when we choose our random airports, we're not going to get any runways that have ILS. So those are the new features in the latest release of FS Flying School Pro version 5.3. And remember that you can always download FS Flying School Pro as a free demo from the FS Flying School site at fsflyingschool.com. The demo has no time limit on it. You can use it as much as you like. You are restricted to a few airports, but you can use it for as long as you like to try it out. And we hope you enjoy the product, and happy landings!